Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Winning Browns podcast. I think this is episode 20 in the series. If not, it's 21. I frankly don't remember because it has been a while since we did one
It's an
of these.
episode.
Yes, it is indeed. But we are at the mid-season point of the NFL, a little bit past it. We were going to do an episode of the trade deadline, but obviously schedules kind of got
Yeah.
kind of bad for both of us. I'm sure Akilesh can talk about how horrible midterms were for him. I could
Yeah.
probably say the same thing for me. Um, but hey, life moves on. We're back here with another episode, and we've got a lot to talk about and pretty exciting content for y'all today.
Yeah.
Notice I said y'all. I'm getting that LSU culture kind of ingrained in me. But regardless, we're going to start off today by talking about just kind of mid-season takeaways. Then we're going to kind of go into another bit of a film breakdown. And if we have time, we might do a little bit of an NFL game with y'all and see where that basically ends up. But we'll start off with the half season review, the mid-season review as far as the NFL. A lot of interesting storylines. I'll start off with just kind of talking about what NFL awards you'd give at this current moment. Akhilesh, would you, when it comes to NFL awards, MVP,
Mhm.
offensive rookie of the year, offense and defensive player of the year, that type of stuff, coach of the year, who do you see winning these awards as it stands of this moment currently as we record today?
Yeah. I think you got to go with number one. I think when you look at Offensive Rookie of the Year, it's a lockdown for Jaden Daniels. LSU alumni. The guy has been balling out. He's playing an MVP level as a rookie quarterback. Cliff Kingsbury. We can say what we want as a head coach and sometimes, but I think he's tremendously changed. I've been wrong about him certainly, and he's taken this offense to a completely otherworldly level as they're playing right now against the Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll see how that goes. Um, that's for me. That's a lock at Offensive Rookie of the Year. At Defensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go with Jane Verse.
Jared
Look,
Bruce, wow.
coming into the draft season, I talked a lot about him, and I told, look, if they play him as an edge, he will not be successful. If they play him an inside type of defensive tackle, edge wise, he will be unstoppable. Is he unstoppable? No. But he's getting to that place where he can definitely be one of those guys that you look at like, this guy's a dominant pass rusher. And they've done that. They've made him go inside. They've made him play with Fisk a lot more on the inside. So they're so dominant when it comes to that inside pressure. And I think he's done enough to get that Defense Rookie of the Year for now. From an MVP standpoint, Lamar Jackson has it in his hands. Look, Derrick Henry's having maybe another second 2,000 yard season. You look at Patrick Mahomes is definitely not in the conversation. Let's not even get into that,
Right.
right? Horrible offensively, honestly. But when you look at even other guys like Saquon, Derrick Henry, those guys are playing otherworldly. But Lamar Jackson's playing on a different planet. So he has just raised this level of quarterback play. Like when you are jump shotting touchdowns in critical moments in the game, you know you're a star. So that's Lamar Jackson's MVP for me. Defensive Player of the Year is a very, very tough one for me. I really don't know where I want to go with this. I'll mention this. Offensive Player of the Year, I do take Derrick Henry just based on the way he's been
Right.
playing right now. From you know the Defensive Player of the Year for me has been really tough. I'm not gonna lie, but if I'm gonna give it to anybody, uh, I would have to say the reason why I don't want to say anything right now is because the guy this team plays for, is not by any means a very like they're playing at the best they can. But I do have to give it to Fred Warner. Look, the guy has been balling out. I know he's a 49ers guy, but he's been balling out. Um, Zone coverage amazing, tackling amazing, the leader of a elite defense. He's just been doing it all. I think you have to give it to him at this stage in his career. I think I've covered it all except Coach of the Year. Call me biased, call me this and that,
I know where you're
but
going.
Jim Harbaugh has to get it, man. let's look at it from, I'll talk about the Chargers later on in this video, but let's just look at it from a reasonable standpoint. This team was 5-11 last season, right? They threw away Brandon Staley when he wasn't horrible. Okay, let's be honest, he wasn't horrible by any means. They threw him away. You're a 5-11 team. You give away, quite a lot of talent. You give away Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, who got the winning touchdown, by the way, with the Steelers. And then you have, I called it also. I will mention it. I called it also. And then you also give away Keenan Allen, right, for a fourth round pick. All of those things in, and right now you're 6-3 with the 3-game win streak, with the number one defense on the planet. I mean, this team is the first team since I think the 2019 Patriots to allow less than 20 points a game for 8 consecutive games or 9 consecutive games at this point, which is astonishing.
Correct.
They've just been incredible. Now, this game against the Bengals is going to be that key deciding game for both teams to say who is in that top race. So
100%.
I think, look, you can call me biased, but I don't think it's wrong saying that Jim Harbaugh, just based on what he's been able to do, I think fully deserves this Coach of the Year.
I'll say this, Jim Harbaugh, I think deserves to be in the conversation, but there are a lot of coaches that deserve to be in the conversation this year when it comes to Coach of the Year that are definitely qualifiable. I'll say this, a lot of what your arguments for Jim Harbaugh, I would say would be the reason why, in a similar way how D'Amico Ryans didn't end up winning Coach of the Year, although I think he should have. You could also make an argument for Shane Steichen. I think both of them had a better argument than Kevin Stefanski, who ended up winning. Um,
Miles better, yeah.
in the same way, I feel the same opinion about Jim Harbaugh and Kevin O'Connell. They've had really good teams, but I feel
Yeah.
part of why they've been so good, all credit to them, they're great coaches, don't get me wrong, but they've been a little bit better just because of the fact that they have, Brian Flores and Jesse Minter. For what you said, I'm probably going to actually make the argument that Jesse Minter ends up winning Assistant Coach of the Year, which is a new award
Yeah.
not
No,
last year.
no, no, no.
That's
That's
not a
without a doubt. That's without a doubt.
right. Actually, but when it comes to Coach of the Year, this is one of the bigger awards. I think this is a very narrative-based award. And for that reason, I'm going to go with probably a coach and executive who are going to win Coach of the Year, Executive of the Year, in Dan Quinn and Adam Peters for Washington. The
Okay.
narrative behind that. This has been a Washington team who's been in turmoil, organizational turmoil, for upwards of 20 years. This team is so bad. My dad disowned his fandom as a Washington Commanders fan and decided to become a Baltimore Ravens fan. When the first 5 years he was here in America, they didn't even have a team in Baltimore because the Colts had moved back in '83. All right. This has been a team that finally has hope. Every time that they've won, they
Mhm.
never necessarily had hope, with the exception of the 2012 season, which we all know how it ends. I desperately hope that doesn't happen to Jaden Daniels. But Jaden Daniels
Yeah.
has been excellent, and I hope that's the case. I'll be honest, I didn't expect that from Jaden Daniels to this degree, especially not this quickly if I did anyways, right? But he has
Right.
exceeded all expectations. I think anybody, even the biggest fan of Jaden Daniels would have had. He's
Yeah.
exceeded all those expectations. And Akilesh and I had this discussion off camera a couple of weeks ago where we were debating. Akilesh made the argument that maybe this will go down as a top 5 play of all time. And while I do think that's a little bit too early to say, what I will say is certainly top 3, maybe top 1 play of all time may go down as far as plays in Washington Commanders franchise
Yeah.
history. No doubt about that. And, the Washington Commanders have turned a table. They've gone from being the doormat of the NFL to being an organization that really has, in a way, has pretty much transcended the league with not just how they coach, their details, their regimen, their nutritional abilities. I don't know if you saw this video. Highly recommended. I think what's his name? Fran Michael
Yeah.
Smith. He made a video discussing how Washington has this new VR system that helps their players basically practice in-game situations, which I think is brilliant. I think is the future of the NFL. And I think more teams need to start doing that. I think they will. Dan Quinn has improved a lot as a head coach from his time as the Atlanta Falcons
Atlanta.
head coach. I
He
think
was
he
he was good
deserves
there
that head
too. He
coach
was
of the
good
year.
there too. People forget that.
Absolutely. As far as anything you said about all the other awards, I completely agree with you. Same thing with the defense player of the year. You can make an argument, like I said, the jury's still out on that award. I personally today would give it to Fred Warner if I had a vote. He's having one of the best defensive seasons ever by a linebacker. Um, I mean, the Niners defense is not nearly as bad as it was early in the year. They're now seventh in the
Yeah,
all in total defense. So from that standpoint, if the Niners continue to improve, I think he should be the defense player of the year, although I don't think he's going to win it. Simply put, a linebacker has not won a defense player of the year award since, if I'm not mistaken, Luke Kuechly in 2013.
yeah.
To me, this is going to come down to one of the players in the defensive line or a cornerback. To me, actually, the guy who might end up winning the award is Dexter
See,
Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence has nine
ooh, good
sacks
point.
as a defensive tackle, as a nose tackle, mind you, nonetheless,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, that's a good point.
unheard of. Aaron Donald had 20 and a half sacks in 2018.
But that was a
He
nose
played as a
tackle.
3-4 defensive end. Dexter Lawrence is playing straight from the middle as a run stuffer. This is like if Vince Wilfork had, you know,
Yeah,
3 sacks in a season. He's on that trajectory. So I think if he continues to do this, also being that he's in a big market, he's going to get the advantage to basically end up winning Defense Player of the Year.
right.
I
Yeah,
will ask
completely
though,
agree.
Akilesh, when it comes to the midseason though, there is one other question I did have. Is there a specific main, like a big takeaway you've had about any team, maybe a trend you've seen across the NFL that kind of came to your, you know,
Like, if there was any trend, I would say this. For me, I think I would look at it as teams more than a trend.
mm,
Okay, but we do have to when I say this, like the Kansas City Chiefs, like we have to mention them. They're 8-0 with a below top 15 ranked offense, right?
100%.
You but a top 5 defense, right? Call me crazy, and this could be one of the most crazy statements I've ever said, but this might be the time they go undefeated. Look, this is why I'm saying it. You're up against the Denver Broncos with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, who's going up against a top 5 defense, and he's driving it down on them, right? You have the field goal to ice the game, and you block. Like, how many times have you seen a field goal block to win a game? Like, I've almost never seen that in my life. A field goal block to win
Very
the
rare.
game, and then you look at the other instances where, like, for example, the Baker Mayfield toss. Like everything seems to play into their hands right now. And I get it. It's not as though they have the Bills coming up this weekend. That's going to be their deciding game. But if you look after the Bills, there's not that much competition that you would say, "Oh, they're going to beat them."
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying by that?
Yeah,
This might be the time where they go undefeated. This will be the worst undefeated team ever if they do. But it just might be that time because they're not. It's not like those '08 Patriots were crushing everybody. In this case, it's just the luck of everything spins into their hands right now. That's what's just crazy to me. I think that part of the Kansas City Chiefs is just what shocks me. Now, the second thing I'll say is this: the Detroit Lions are the champions of the NFL, and they will be this year. Now, I get it, undefeated, but these guys are the champions. They're playing at an offensive level that's just we've never seen before. We talk about the Houston Texans game. Jared Goff has one of the worst games of his career. But what does he do? When it matters most, he makes those plays down the field, gets the ball down, and they win the game 26-23. I mean, one of the probably the greatest comeback in Lions history, if we really think about it. Those type of things just don't happen. But when you have a coordinator like Ben Johnson, a leader like Dan Campbell, those things happen. And a final point I'll make is the trend that I see, Yash, that I think has made the best NFL teams are not the best coordinators nor the best players. They're the best motivators, leaders as coaches who bring in those guys and build and executives that bring in those guys that build their culture within a building, establish it, and then put it on the field. That's what gets results. Jeff Saturday on ESPN First Take, he made an amazing point once. Coaches aren't there to establish a philosophy. Coaches are there to establish a culture. That philosophy is embedded within the culture that they establish. Dan
That
Campbell
philosophy
is
is
not,
instilled by the organization. I'll add
isn't
that.
so, but that's all the culture. The organiz
Agreed.
from the guy, from the CEO, whatever owner, whatever, to the water boy down below. There's a culture being
100%.
built, right? When you look at the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell was never a coordinator. He was a tight ends coach
Correct.
who came out of left field, and then they said, "You're going to be our head coach." He came in with his GM. He said, "I want to build a foundation. This is the culture I want to create." Their culture is, I'm going to live in the ice ages where I'm going to rip your bones and eat blood. But that's the way I want to approach football.
Right.
You look at what Washington's doing with that, with their whole thing. They're making their philosophy. They're making a culture out of what they have. Jim Harbaugh, that's a culture-driven place.
Correct.
Bill Parcells always said this. It's not about having the best players on your team. It's about having those players that best fit your culture, your system. When you have those, you can't be stopped. And I
Right.
think that's a trend we're seeing with those great teams. We're not seeing those teams. That's why when you look at the Bears, you look at the Jets more than anybody else, the Jets, it's not working because they're going after the best players, not the players that best fit them. So that's the trend I see in the NFL, and that's where the most successful teams are. Jacksonville and Jets, they're not successful because of one simple reason. They don't have an established culture, and they don't bring in players that are willing to establish that culture. I think that's why you see guys like Harbaugh's, both of them, be exceptional as they are because they're able to build a certain culture. So that's my
You
main trend.
That's honestly a perfect transition to what I was going to say, actually, kind of what you're talking about culture. I was going to actually argue on the opposite side, and I was going to talk about the dysfunction in a lot of teams, specifically for the Jets, Jaguars, Titans, and the Bears. And I'll just say this. I mean, I've gone on a rant. I've talked about the Jets enough. So, I mean, the Jets can speak for themselves. What they've done the last few weeks is really just
Wait, wait,
end
wait, wait, wait,
result.
wait. Hey, Yash, do you hear that?
No, what is it? I have earbuds on.
Nothing.
So.
Nothing. The Jets can't
Oh,
say
now I hear it. Yeah,
nothing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I had my
Nothing.
earbuds on. Sorry, I couldn't hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing. They're an
Well, okay.
absolute waste franchise with a useless owner who wants to call himself the ambassador. But you know what he's the ambassador of? Nothing. Because all the money that he had just got thrown away for a bunch of old guys who can't do what they need to do. That's all I gotta say.
And as two kids from the Bay Area who, well, for more me than Akila, she came originally from the Northeast, but for me more, I take it personal when an owner comes out and basically criticizes San Francisco and the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Keep your words in your mouth, all right? Don't have to come after San Francisco, man.
You
I
have one
like that.
championship in all your years of living. They got five in a decade. Or
There we
two
go.
decades. Two
Well,
decades,
yeah,
but still.
13
Yeah.
years. Yeah. But I'll just say this. I mean, when it comes to dysfunctional, like I said, the Jets, I mean, they're the result. This is the end result of another tumultuous tenure of rotating coaches and GMs and QBs and whatnot, right? The Jags, again, they're also speak for themselves. The Jags and Titans, I think, fall into the same category here. These are two teams with very hands-off owners and very hands off in the sense that they're just, from what it seems, they just don't really do anything when it comes to having accountability within the organization, right? And the same thing you could really put about the Bears, but Bears is a little different. I'll get to that in a sec. But the Titans and the Jaguars just baffle me, right? You get a guy like Doug Peterson as your coach, right? You get a GM like Trent Baalke as your GM, right? And it just baffles me when players can come to a press conference talking about, we don't know what the hell we're doing, right? We don't know what we're being coached. There needs to, what's it called? We need to change things. In the case of the Jaguars, I'm at least proud of the fact that like someone like Andre Cisco is coming out and saying things need to be changed. But then when Doug Peterson comes out and basically says, "Oh yeah, there's accountability, a culture problem." I'm sorry, aren't you that like you said, Akhilesh, aren't you the head coach? Isn't it your job to set the standard?
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to this, like there seems to be a lot of finger pointing in these organizations, right? You look at the Jags, including the media, everyone is blaming Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence hasn't played great. Granted, right? He hasn't played. He definitely hasn't played up to the $55 million contract per
Exactly.
year that he received last year. But he hasn't played bad by any means. He's sixth, if I'm not mistaken, in the league right now in QBR or seventh, right? That's very,
Mm,
very good in advanced analytics, he's top 10 in everything. He's played certainly a lot better than he has last year, and he's played very good in the last few weeks, especially. You look at the run game, yeah, it has a few problems here and there, but for the most part, it's good. This is a very talented team. Brian Thomas is playing very good. The defense has a lot of playmakers, but this team has shown day in and day out that they cannot play as units together. And the same thing I'll say
mm,
about the Titans. All right, this is a Titans team that went and hired Brian Callahan last year, right? And in the case of Brian Callahan, there seems to be no accountability because you have pretty much frustration every play. All I see are incredibly individually talented players, right? Skill position players at every place, but none of them performing well as none of them are necessarily performing well as a unit. Offensively, this team will get stuck and stagnant every time. And I get the quarterback problems. I get that for sure. But here's the problem. When you have a quarterback problem that bad, you should at least lean into your run game. The problem with this team is that they're very stubborn with their mistakes. And this team has a very good defense too, but the problem with their defense is they don't lean on the offense, right?
mm.
This is very much this reminds me a lot of another Titans team, actually, the 93 Oilers, where it's basically the defense is playing for themselves, the offense is playing for themselves. Only difference is that this team is a lot freaking worse than that 93 Oilers team, right?
Yeah.
You look at the fact, I just don't understand with the Titans, especially there's I'm shocked. I'm baffled by the fact that they have so many leaders in that locker room. Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, Amani Hooker. Not a
Yeah.
single one of them has come out and said a damn thing about what is going on. And this Titans team is what, 3-6 or 2-7?
Yeah.
This
Twins are
team, I mean, the only time I've seen them in any sort of paper, in any sort of article, is when Calvin Ridley came out and called out that he should be getting more targets. And I'm not saying Calvin Ridley is a selfish player, but I will say the on face value, when you come out and say I deserve more targets, that comes out as a
Yeah.
comment, right? But what that shows me is, in fact, that you're not in the case of Calvin Ridley, you're not necessarily looking at this from, oh my God, the team is struggling and I can, contribute more. It just seems to me that the fact that it just looks like this team very much at this point has basically lost their ability to play as a unit, as a team. And
Yeah.
pretty much now they're playing individual. And
Yeah.
that shows on the coach who really can get to either of these units to basically play with each other, not dependent on each other, and everyone's pointing fingers in the organization. And Rand Carthen is doing absolutely nothing about it. Amy Adams, the owner, is doing absolutely nothing about it. That's a cultural problem. And then we get to the Bears. I
Actually,
don't.
Yash.
We'll get to that in a sec. But what I
Exactly.
will say is
Exactly.
this: simply put, when it comes to the Chicago Bears, all I saw was a report this morning talking about them considering benching Caleb Williams. It doesn't matter about what the film says. I know he hasn't been great, and we'll break this down later on, right? He hasn't been that bad by any means. He's at 38.4 QBR. He has very standard numbers for a rookie in the NFL. 9,000 or 1,900 passing yards, 9 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, a 60% completion percentage. For reference, Justin Fields had a 25 QBR in his rookie season. All right. And you're considering basically benching Caleb Williams. I mean, do you think that the Colts would have done that with Peyton Manning if that Peyton Manning would have reached his potential? Hell, the Colts were a dysfunctional organization in their first 4 years. All right.
Yeah.
This team got carried because Manning was, what's it called? Got to an elite level of football long before, people expected him to. They got it
No,
in
Yash.
23, but they
Like,
were struggling every year. It took
just
him
one.
6 years to get to his prime.
One thing I'll say this. In his first season, he was 3-13, threw the most interceptions as a rookie quarterback. Second season,
Yes,
13-3. 13-3, number one
exactly.
team in the entire NFL.
And he led the league in game-winning drives.
Yeah.
So that goes to show you that he's playing a big offensive production, 4,200 passing yards. I think what he had.
Now we're not saying
Right.
Peyton Manning and Caleb Williams are on the same level. Not even
Absolutely.
close.
But what we're saying is Caleb Williams had the same hype, similar, he has a lot of talent himself. And, it doesn't make sense for a quarterback that talented, who had that type of hype, who had that much of trust from the organization from day one, to basically all of a sudden be benched. That destroys a player's confidence. And we've seen that with other quarterbacks like Tua, etc. So you cannot do that and expect a different result when you just have done this with quarterback after quarterback. That just shows a
Fair.
lack of accountability and trying to find a scapegoat in the organization. That's why they've had so many coaches fired, so many quarterbacks traded.
See, well, okay, talking about that, what we're going to get into now is a film study of second year and first year quarterbacks, just looking at what they're doing, etc., why they are the way they are. And I'll be breaking down Caleb Williams. I do have some film on him, so we'll try to show that to you guys as well. I do want to mention this though in regards to the Bears. One thing that even Bill Belichick's pointing out that I don't agree with is it's all Ryan Poles' fault. If I'm not wrong, that's a GM. Um, is that the GM of the Bears? I'm
Yes,
horrible with names, right?
yes.
They're pointing out that it's his fault. I'm going to be honest. The guy brought in Keenan Allen for you. He got the best punter that we've ever seen almost in a draft class. He brings in Romeo Dinze and Caleb Williams in the same draft. He's had successful drafts one after another. If you look at since he's been in the NFL, every single time his draft grades are there, it's an A. It's an A draft grade. You cannot put the blame on Ryan Poles all the time. It's just not fair. At some point, we have to recognize the fact that the coaching staff is horrendous. Okay, I called it at first when Matt Eberflus came in. Look, he's a great defensive coordinator, but he's just not a leader. I don't see a
100%
leader
agree with
from
you.
Matt Eberflus. So we'll get into it though. So we'll start to get into some game film on Caleb Williams. Hopefully, if it works, I hope it works at least. Right. Let me try sharing screen here. Yash, could you
Oh, yeah. Sorry, give me
allow?
just.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
There we go.
Okay, so this game is against New England. This most recent game. This is the game I think that's made everybody just question Caleb Williams to the ultimate level. Um, is this accessible to you, Yash, right now?
Yes.
Okay, so right on this play, what we're going to see here is so first of all, this right here is what we want to identify. You can see the lines here, Yash.
Yes.
This is what we're looking at. Look at the number of players that are in the line of scrimmage. Right now, you have like a five-man front here with two corners on either side playing man to man here. And then you have probably what's going to be like a cover zero. Cover zero is essentially where the entire defense is saying, we're going to come at you, we're going to blitz at you all throughout. So in this case, I think we have maybe a cover one stance because you have three linebackers set here, probably have a safety on top. Then you have
Mhm.
two corners playing man to man. I think as the thing here progresses, you'll see just a shift in the line. So they're kind of going to play zone coverage, is what that's saying. Let me just slow it down here, just so that it's much easier for us to look. So in this case, what's going to happen is you got Cole Kmet coming on the inside, and then we'll just see this slowly here. So the moment we're here, let me try to erase these. So the moment when we're here, essentially, a route concept that the Chicago Bears a lot of times use is this outside cut. We just call this a simple out route. It's a route that most of the time the Chicago Bears use just to get separation. Now this is where I think Caleb Williams is horrible at. Horrible at. He looks at the running back here, right? One thing that I think Caleb Williams is caused him to be horrible is he's just not able to get this idea of, let me explain it like this. This is what Caleb Williams in his mind is thinking. How can I get the first down instead of how can I get up to the first down? There's a difference. When you're at the first quarter, 2nd and 7, 12 minutes 40, you don't need to get a first down. If I can't get a first down, let me get as close as I can to the first down. And then on next play, I can run it in. That's the problem. Right here, wide open running back on the inside. If you dot him right here, he's getting at least up to the 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. And from there, you can run the ball in, or you could have um, uh, some way of just like getting 3 yards. It's much easier than getting 7 yards. And the thing I hate about this most is Caleb's actually looking at the running back. You guys will see as the video progresses. You see? He looks at that running back there, and then he's all gone. The moment this comes out, Caleb's got his eyes right on that running back. And then now he's just backing up more and more, and he's getting sacked. It's just one of those things that frustrate me because he does the same thing in college. This is one of the reasons that I didn't like Caleb coming out of college. I'm not saying he wasn't supposed to be the number one recruit, but it's just this idea of him always waiting to throw that ball that just frustrates me. That's one play that I have. Second play that I have is right here. So these are all games against New England. This is the games that I was able to get video coverage of. So hope you guys,
Yeah, unfortunately, we're poor guys. We don't have the
yeah.
ability to access
If you want
access
true film,
film.
go to Brett Coleman. He's amazing.
Yeah, unless you get a Brett Cole or unless we steal it some way, but don't say anything. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't YouTube, don't take me down. Please, no one, please don't get FBI to open my door up, please. We don't want that anywhere here, but yes,
Right.
unfortunately, we have to find very unique ways of getting film.
So this play here, we'll see. This is I think Keenan Allen. He's gonna run again. Where I mentioned this out route to the corner here. You can see that Yash just confirming, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he's gonna run this corner. Watch Caleb here. Late. This is not. This is DJ Moore. Just watch Caleb here, though. This is one thing that I've noticed way too often. So, so this is just to let you guys know here. This is gonna be here a three-step drop, one hitch, and then boom, throw it. That's what it should be. But so the three-step drop, one hitch is something that the West Coast offense kind of prioritized. It was essentially the timing of a route that a receiver takes is going to be proportional to the number of steps that a quarterback takes. So a three-step drop is you take 3 steps back, and then one hitch is the number of steps you take in front. So a three-step drop would be 1, 2, 3, then one hitch would be 1, right? So that would be a three-step drop and one hitch. This is one of those classic quarterback progressions. Now, he takes that 3 steps, fine. The one hitch, if he makes that one hitch, it's perfect. But look, starter stepping, horrible foot technique right there, right? In this case, DJ Moore has a first down. Now you could say, oh, he's not reaching far enough. He's not getting to the ball. That's fair. DJ Moore has been a horrible attitude player for the Chicago Bears. But in this case, right, that's a very doable throw. And he's throwing it pretty much to the coaches on the sideline. That's just not acceptable, right? Again, as I mentioned before, it's the timing of his throws that I'm frustrated about. That's the thing I extremely dislike when it comes to Caleb Williams. Now, let me try to open up another video here. I think it is this one here. Yeah. So again, against New England, right now, 2nd and 14, you're on 50 seconds left in this game here. Again, right? I mentioned this before, and I have to mention it again. It's the timing of his throws that just disturbs me, right? Because this guy is extremely talented. Again, this is going to be one of those comeback routes that we talk about in football. So he's coming over here. Are you able to see the drawing, or is it just me? It's just
Yes.
glitching.
I think
running
so.
this comeback. This is Rome Modinte,
Yes.
who I'll also say this: he has not been very good. I'll be very frank. Rome Modinte has not been playing by far very well. This is one of those things as a quarterback you have to get down, and that's just feet. Your feet have to be precise as a quarterback in order to succeed, right? In this case, I think since he's going from shotgun, it's going to be three-step drop, maybe a hitch, or maybe no hitch in this case. So yep, three-step drop, one hitch. It's really not horrible technique in terms of footwise, right? But it's also the position of the ball now, right? You're now throwing it right here, you know, when rather you could throw right here. Right? There's a huge gap here. We don't need, a rookie receiver trying to make Randy Moss plays on every single down. Timing is horrible. It's horrible. I'll mention it again and again because that's the truth. Last play I'll get to here. Um, so again, this is against New England. These are all just within the half, honestly. So now this play is one thing I want to mention as a positive when it comes to Caleb Williams, but also as a negative. So as we watch the play, just notice overall. I'll try to be silent. I know I talk too much, but uh, right here. So it's a 4th and 4 situation. Oh, I sped it up. 4th and 4 situation. Now, Yash, in your analysis, good play, bad play. What are we saying?
I would say that that was, that was a good play. You basically see the or what's it called? The pressure come on you, find the
Yep.
opening, and you just go. At that point, it's 4th and 4. The whole concept really kind of gets out. You're not playing situational football. It's just try to get to the line. You see that opening, it's there. You just have to go and get those 4 yards.
Okay. First thing that you notice here, we're playing cover one, cover two, everything we're playing here.
Can't tell. Think cover one.
I think we're playing cover one, right? So
Yeah.
you just got that one safety over top.
I don't know
Fourth
if
and
there's
four
another safety
situation,
back here. It doesn't look like it.
maybe,
Yeah,
but you just count the number of players. You got four, you got three,
it
that's
looks like
seven,
Cam right now.
9, 10. You might have another
Yeah.
cover safety in the back, maybe, right? Let's just, I think, let me put it on slow mo here. Sorry, guys. Um, so in the situation, you tell me this. Is this player going to get me 4 yards, or is he going to give me 10 yards based on his position? Yeah, so essentially what I'm trying to say is, look, you're seeing it's actually cover two here, right? But
Right.
the I think it really is cover one because you have cover one over top here, and then I think you're playing with him. I think you're playing one on one versus here
Versus
that
tight end,
cornerback's gonna
right?
play inside on that man-on-man coverage. So that's what I'm seeing here, right? I could be wrong. I'm not a coach, so I don't know. But
From the looks of it, though, it might be that this is actually the guy who basically plays zone here against DJ Moore, who seems on cover for the time being.
exactly. So now on this purpose, now you said it was a good play. Understanding that situational football, let's throw that out the door. Let me get a first down.
100%.
However, I want to point this out. As we see the play go over, Yash, just wait. Boom. Right here, this is Keenan Allen. I know it's hard to see.
Right.
Look at the space between him and that safety. Now you tell me,
100%.
is that better than 4 yards of Caleb Williams gaining, or is that 15 yards that he could have gained?
That's true. But if you look at Caleb Williams' eyes right now, he's not exactly looking
And
at
that's my point. That's my
Keenan
point.
Allen. There's a
That's
good
my
point.
point.
There's a point to be made that if the pressure came just a second later or a second later than it actually came, he would have probably seen Keenan Allen under that play. I don't know necessarily if he throws that, but under that circumstance, with if pressure had not been that quick, I would have agreed with you as far as saying that yeah, he should have thrown to Keenan Allen.
Look, I don't care if pressure. I don't care if you had, I don't know, Mount Everest is going to fall on you, or you got 15 guys who are trying to sack you. If you have 15 yards of separation with a guy who's had over 10 or what 10,000 yards receiving in his career,
Right.
you throw that ball to him. I don't care who you are, what pressure you're under. Like there's no excuse for that. Right there,
So
that's
you're
15
making,
yards
well, I
first
mean,
down.
that at the end of the day, though, that's more dependent on the play call. If that's not his first read, you're not going to see it one way or another. It's
No,
the
no,
same
no, no,
idea that
Yash,
Big Ben
that's what you're
Roethlisberger
missing.
got called
I
out
can
at some
almost
time.
guarantee you on a 4th and 4 situation with a triple slant combo, your first read is not the running back on a flat route. I can almost guarantee that. If your first read was maybe here, or maybe if your first read was a tight end, maybe. I think right now he's looking at that tight end for his first read. Okay, fine, he's not there. This is the other thing here. Let's just take a look, right? Okay, fine. If your first read's not open, look, why are you
Right.
looking there? Keenan
At
Allen's
that
still
point, if
wide
you made
open.
that argument, now I can, okay, now I can kind of see, yeah, where you're going. At that point, I would make the argument that, yeah, you probably want to throw the
And
ball.
now you're looking at you could have still thrown that ball to DJ Moore, if I'm being honest, but this play here, him running it in, is 10,000
Mhm.
times better.
100%.
See, look, this is not at all a bad play. It's not at all a bad play by Caleb Williams. He understood the situation, he went after it. Okay? But it's those small things that create large differences. For
And it does
example, he
show
got
that
the
he's
first down
basically
here.
late on timing, which is another kind of,
Not late, horribly late,
yeah.
horribly late. There are certain things that you just look. I wish I could show some Arizona film. Unfortunately, I don't have access to that. The Arizona film will tell you everything wrong about Caleb Williams in one game. Now, is this now? Are you guys looking at like? Well, you guys just mentioned he's not as horrible as he is. Well, Yash mentioned that. I am. I'm not, rather. Okay? Look, this has been a horribly disappointing season for Caleb Williams. And you know what? I don't mind. You can call me a Caleb Williams hater. I'll take it, personally. I did say in the preseason he was going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. And am I glad? I'm kind of happy that I was wrong because my initial thing was right. You know what I'm saying? So I want to mention this to you. So Caleb Williams, TTT, or time to throw. I wrote it on a flashcard just so that I don't remember. 3.05. That's tied for eighth most in the NFL. Everybody's bashing this Chicago Bears offensive line, right? There's another stat called percent of pressure with responsibility. Essentially, that breaks down for every pressure that comes within the pocket, who takes most responsibility? Quarterback, offensive line, others, etc. The offensive line for the Chicago Bears is taking 77.3% responsibility. That's ranked 28th in the NFL. So 28th in the NFL, meaning it's one of those lower ends where they are taking not necessarily, let me say it like this, they're blocking actually pretty well if they're not taking in as much pressure,
Right. And there's a
right?
narrative right now going out that with the fact that Caleb Williams has been sacked 38 times, that a lot of that is because of the offensive line, which is
That's
not
not
true.
true. Exactly.
Because if you look at the
Let me
pressure
get
to
to it.
sack ratio, it's when it comes to the pressure sack ratio, um, I think when it comes to under 5 seconds, the Bears have one of the lowest in the league. When it comes to
Exactly.
above 5 seconds, it is the highest in the league without a doubt.
See, let me mention this though,
21
Yash.
of those 38 sacks have come after 4 seconds, which
No,
is
let me mention this
far
though.
more than a second beyond the league average. Go ahead, Akilish.
Let me mention. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you're
Those were
good. You're
great
good.
points, but that's just adding up to this point. Others is 5.2%, 26th. 19.6% for the quarterback, sixth most in the NFL. On all of these plays that I saw here, I can put each one of them, each one in the pocket, he has more than 3 seconds. Patrick
100%.
Mahomes doesn't have that. Lamar Jackson, who has possibly one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, doesn't have. Jared Goff doesn't have that. This guy has so much time in the pocket. I, I'm so sorry that I can't show you Arizona. I for God's sakes, I could have broken down Arizona and taken 45 minutes of it. Literally horrible, horrible timing. Stands in the pocket like he's gonna get served. I don't know, an ice cream cake when it's not even his birthday. Okay, he's just standing in the pocket like waiting for a smiley face to come up. It's horrible timing, no precision at all. The only thing that gives me that any hope in regards to Caleb Williams is the fact that he's trying to make something out of nothing. In some situations, yes, there's nothing there. Roma Dinze has massively not performed. Okay, if we're being very honest here, Roma Dinze has not been close to where his potential was. DJ Moore doesn't care about the team. I'm sorry, it's the truth. When you walk out of the play on a third down critical situation when Caleb Williams is running for his life and you don't really care that it's over or not over, you don't even see whether you got the ball or not, it shows me you have no care. Keenan Allen, he's coming to the end of his career. So, with all those things into the play, yes, he's in a tough situation, but at the same time, for me, here's the thing. He's trying to make something out of nothing. He's trying to get that ball down the field. There's been some plays against, for example, the Jacksonville Jaguars. There was a play where he faked it to the wide receiver, faked it to the running back, and then Cole Kmet was right on that inside. He threw a beauty. That's precision. That's timing. That's quarterback play. You know what I'm saying? Like here, the timing of his feet, everything was off. The Cole Kmet play, I can tell you that's one of the best plays a quarterback made this season. The timing, the foot, the feet, the way they moved. See, quarterback play, guys, as Bill Walsh says it, it's ballerina. It's it's just slow, calm, easy. When you look at it, you don't feel any pressure. But on the dancer's mind, it's full pressure. Your feet placement, everything about it has to be so exact. So it just flows. That's how quarterback play should be. It should just flow. In Caleb Williams' plays, it's a disjointed line that's trying to get jointed. It's just not at all okay. That's my film on Caleb Williams. Okay. Now, there are a lot of bright points. I was not able to get enough film on it to show those bright points, but that's where I'm going with when it comes to Caleb Williams.
So for me, what I'm gonna basically share for is more a general idea on the second year quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Specifically, three I'm gonna give because I think they're at three different kind of levels: Bryce Young, Anthony Richard, and CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, I don't necessarily think we need to go over that much, given he's at an elite level, but I do want to set kind of the blueprint of what Akilesh and I kind of are looking for when we see a second year quarterback, kind of what, makes a quarterback who's kind of emerging into that elite form. And CJ Stroud is miles ahead of everyone in this case. Jaden Daniels is a rookie, so we'll see if he continues to do this next year. But CJ Stroud, he has shown a lot of places that that kind of set the standard on what the second year quarterback is. And mind you, that's not even without his struggles. He struggled a lot more this year than he did last year. And we'll get to that in a sec. But there are a lot better things and a lot more coachable errors here that can get improved over time than what I see with Bryce with what's it called, Bryce Young and Anthony Richards.
Mm-hmm.
So as I share my screen, here we go. There we go. All right. So we're gonna start off. Let's just start off with the first off. Let's just start off with one of my favorite plays of the NFL this entire year, being more than just kind of the technicalities of football. I love this entire play because it's extremely cold, as the kids would call it. I feel old saying as the kids would say, but basically, let's look at this deep ball. All right. Well, first off, we can start off with this play. So on the 3rd and 5, CJ Stroud sees the blitz coming from the left side, right? You got to. This is what I like about the Texans in general, right? Bobby Slowick and D'Amico Ryans, they're very good at coaching offensive line schemes. So even though the Texans have not necessarily had a very good offensive line this year, you know where the blitz is going to come. For CJ Stroud, it's very easy from the blind side. He has a read that's already looking. You got your two receivers cleared, so that gives enough space for the running back. I'm not sure who that is. I think that might be Joe Mixon. I might be wrong. But to basically get the ball, and he has enough space to basically make room for a pass. But this is really the play that kind of stands out as far as being able to talk about CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is a quarterback who's not necessarily the most mobile. He's more of a pocket-oriented quarterback, but he's mobile enough, right? The big thing about CJ Stroud, however, is his ability to quickly read the field after, especially through play action, movement, and whatnot, and be able to, in spite of maybe sometimes sloppy footwork, find the read quickly and deliver. So on this play, you got basically a fake pitch CJ Stroud backs up. He's not even looking for a sec. He's already read. And this is also, again, what I like about the Texans offense with Bobby Slowick. You got a bunch formation, right? You got the receivers basically kind of already telling their hand very simply with kind of where they're going to go. So the linebackers cover well. When it comes to a quarterback and what they want to see at the line of scrimmage, one of the big things that they want to see is where the linebackers shade before and after the
Mm.
snap. As you can see in this play, Dorian Williams and I think that's Terrell Bernard, both the linebackers of the Buffalo Bills move right. That gives CJ Stroud knowing that Nico Collins is running on a deep route, enough time to basically step back, wait in the pocket. Hopefully, Nico Collins gets down the field in time, which he does, and then just launch it deep. And Nico Collins, being Nico Collins, takes that to the house,
Yeah.
which that's exactly what you want to see from a second quarterback. You want to see patience, being able to quickly read. Now, granted, in more advanced situations, you're not always going to get that. Compare CJ Stroud to a Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, you're not going to get the same
Mm.
ideas. Mahomes against a very, very advanced Patriots defensive scheme struggled. But at the same time, you still saw him making these extended plays over and over and over and over again. CJ Stroud can do that, but not to the same extent, right? And you see these with struggles that you see in the Minnesota Vikings game, as I realize my audio's on. And by the way, before I go any further, I would like to give credit to the videos that I'm using film for to content creator Jackson Kruger Sports. If you see this video, please don't copyright claim us. We're just using this for entertainment purposes. I don't want to get copyright claim, please. We're just two young content creators who
Yeah.
are very poor. So please have mercy on us. But let's start off with this. All right. So when it comes, hold up. Let's see if I can get this as it's buffering, and I have to reload. Great, brilliant. Don't you just love technology every now and then? You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I can tell you I hate it too. But
Yeah. All right. Let's see if this is the play.
by the way, for anybody who wants to know about more film study, Jackson Kruger does it better than a lot of the guys. He does it every game, every week, and he does it really well in a very concise manner too. So he's just amazing when it comes to what he
Yeah,
does.
Kruger, I would say is probably one of my favorite to watch. Kruger, Brett Coleman. If you guys want to look at film study, these guys are the blueprint for it.
Oh,
All right. So
just
this
want to
is the
mention
best
real
play I
quick.
think about.
Just want to mention real quick. Brett Coleman does work for the Chargers. Just want to put it out there. Yeah, go ahead. Go
Perfect.
ahead. Go ahead.
Well, okay, let's start off with this play. So let's start off with the team the Texans are playing. Like obviously they're playing the Minnesota Vikings. Brian Flores comes from that Patriots scheme, and he runs a lot of multiple sets in a very similar way to Bill Belichick. One of the things that makes the Vikings very unique is that they have some of the most versatile players in the league, specifically someone like Josh Metellus, Ivan Pace Jr., Patrick Jones. These are guys, Josh Metellus can pretty much play all 11 positions on the field, and that's very rare for a strong safety. But as we can see here, he's very much, you got a safety basically kind of dropping deep zone coverage, and this is almost, in a sense, a shaded linebacker. What makes this kind of hard for a quarterback, if you're looking at this, is very much this could end up being a nickel back or a corner blitz, excuse me.
Mm,
Right? You see on this side, the Texans have a bunch formation or trips left formation, excuse me, right? But you only got two cornerbacks. One is basically dropping back in zone coverage, right? What this tells me, if I'm a quarterback, is number one, this is your primary route, as you can see by the yellow line, right?
mm,
Depending on what I think this is Metellus, I might be wrong, or whoever the defensive back is, this is your first read. If that doesn't come quickly, you got to wait for a sec. Most
yeah.
likely, you're throwing the ball to this is Stephon Diggs. You're throwing the ball to Stephon Diggs, who, as we're going to see on this play, ends up running a slant route. So he's going to be especially open. But you need that play to take its bit of time. Now, the problem with this play, especially, and this is going to be a struggle for any young quarterback, you got one cornerback shaded here, right? The other line or the linebacker, excuse me. You got another linebacker, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they are playing cover for.
They're
Hold up,
playing cover two. They're playing
I
cover
think they're
two with the
playing cover
inside
two.
rock.
Give me one
They're
sec.
playing cover two, yeah. The thing with
Um,
Flores and Bill Belichick is when they play cover two,
yes,
most of the time it'll come with an extended blitz. So
exactly. So this is the other problem. So okay, yeah, so they're playing cover two. So in this case, what you're trying to figure out here is number one, again, how much time can you figure with the blitz? Again, Brian Flores is the master of blitz when it comes to this. You got a linebacker here who may or may not drop back, and that's always a problem with the blitz when it comes to young quarterbacks trying to figure out, can they read that. Now, CJ Stroud has been very good at being able to read the blitz, but the problem is, as you can see, the Vikings basically put four pass rushers on
pressure.
the left side, basically load the front. And Patrick Jones, who's a little further out, basically has the ability to, if the Texans, which is most likely a zoom, basically shift their entire offensive line left, he can pretty much penetrate through the A gap, the gap between the center and the guard, and basically get to the quarterback very quickly at that, because Patrick Jones is extremely athletic. And you basically got, now, I think this is Titus Howard. Again, I'm not keeping update with the injury report for the Texans, but the right tackle of the Texans is basically on an island with the Vikings defensive edge. That means CJ Stroud is very likely probably only going to get 2 seconds, right? Now, again, with a quarterback like Stroud, unless you're Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, or a quarterback who just cannot move in the pocket, what
Hmm.
you want to do on this play is be able to back up just a little bit. As you can see, Patrick Jones is right here. The problem
Hmm.
is CJ Stroud gets a little bit stuck on his read. Now, at this point, right here, right here, over here, he should know that he's not going to be able to get the ball to Dalton Schultz. Before the line starts, right at the snap, you can see the defensive back, which I think again is Josh Metellus, drop back in coverage. So you know that
He knows the play exactly.
exactly. So you know that that's going to be, you know, a coverage snap for the defensive back. At that point, CJ Stroud's got to look the other way. Right here, I think that's Tank Dell. I might be wrong. That might be Stephon Diggs. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, that's Stephon Diggs. So at that point, you got to be looking the other way right away, right?
No,
You
Yash,
got to,
I will say one thing though. See, from that standpoint, you have I think a seven-man pressure at that point. I think if you also go full screen, you'll see that if I can edit it here, you'll see that you see that white circle that I'm drawing.
which one? Yeah,
You see, he's wide open. No one's there to guard him. So if
100%.
CJ Stroud actually took that time to turn around and then throw it to this side,
Well,
he's
that's what I'll
done
add,
for.
actually. That's the thing that would separate a guy like Mahomes or Lamar Jackson in those specific instances. What they do under the circumstance where they have to look back, at that point, you're just backing up. You're just backing up. When the pressure basically condenses on you one way or another, whether it stacks on the left side or the right side, right? You got to be able, as a quarterback, to be able to just back up a little. You know what I mean? Back up. I had to pull the demonstration with my chair and just take that extra time. Take the hit, be able to get that play to Stephon, to your receiver who's running the slant. For a younger quarterback, it might be a little bit of a shell shock or whatnot. But CJ Stroud has taken those hits before. He's done that before. It's just being able to do that on a consistent level. And as we're seeing, he's struggling a little bit more in his sophomore year as other teams throw similar concepts to him, right?
Yeah.
Um, so from that standpoint, I like what I see from CJ Stroud, but what I would say is these more advanced concepts, they're going to come to him eventually, right?
Yeah.
They're not there yet, but he's very good for a young quarterback. This is a similar thing that Mahomes, Lamar went through. A guy I'd actually compare him better to is a guy like Joe Burrow. You saw a guy like Joe
Mm.
Burrow who, in those specific instances where he just couldn't get the ball that quick out, he would extend the play. I think CJ Stroud needs to take a page out of Joe Burrow's playbook to be able to overcome these new blitz schemes that he's going to be able to see as the year gets longer.
I think
Now,
pressure period. I think pressure period. Anybody
100%.
should take out of Joe Burrow's play.
100%. So now I'm going to move on to Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is the second of the bunch that I would mention. Right now, Anthony Richardson is a very weird one. Anthony, we've talked about this in the past, but Anthony Richardson is one of those quarterbacks that one play he will make an amazing off his back foot 60-yard heave for a touchdown. And I think this is a great example of this against the Chicago Bears, right? You got a deep you got a deep route by Alex Pierce on the right side. You got, deep routes on the right side too from both of the Colts receivers. This is a four receiver set, very standard protection, very standard defensive pass rush set by the Chicago Bears.
Chicago.
So it's very, very simple. Just read the blitz and be able to get that out, which he does. He reads that. Alec Pierce is wide open down the side. Coverage or the coverage shifted. I think the Bears were playing cover one, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let me see.
Um, you got four, six. Yeah, they're playing cover one.
Right. So it's very simple. At that point where the safety basically shifts, you got to be able to find the deep man. Alec Pierce, one of the best deep ball threats in the league right now. I'm pretty sure he's leading the league in yards per reception. He tracks the ball. But this is the other problem I have with Anthony Richardson. That ball when you're that open, that ball needs to be pretty much ahead of you. I get that might be a hospital pass. Throw it on the left side of Alec Pierce. He has that type of space. That was still an inaccurate pass, and that's part of the problem we've seen with Anthony Richardson, who, by the way, has had a, if I'm not mistaken, 44% completion percentage, and I think he had the highest off-target percentage by nearly 20 points in the entire league, right? I haven't updated with the stats, but that is kind of what we see with Anthony Richardson, even on a good play. Now, this is probably another example. When it comes to a quarterback, one of the most important things is decision making on a down-to-down basis, situational football, being able to know how and when to extend a play, right? On this specific play, you see Anthony Richardson, on a quick, basically scheme. He's looking to number one. I'm not sure who number one is. That might be Josh Downs. I might be wrong about that. Again, I'm not good with player numbers. At that point, you gotta look at that ball. What you said with Caleb Williams earlier, that's one of those plays where I would very much on a second down take that risk, basically go and get it, right? Also, you got Jonathan Taylor out here in the flat. You got to be aware of your running back and if he's not blocking, where he is at all points in time if you're a quarterback. Right? You just got to be able to multitask. Now, here's the problem. Anthony Richardson drops back, or hesitates for 1 second, stays in the pocket. I've seen this with many quarterbacks, and this is one reason why a lot of them just don't develop over time. This is a big problem with Derek Carr. After his broken leg, he very much just got shell-shocked to the point where he just refused to be able to extend a play for a few years. He just threw a check down way too late to his receiver. By that point, his receiver or his running back or receiver was covered. It would be a play behind the line, right?
No, but Yash, I will say this though, in regards to this play here, Richardson, he's taking time. But the other thing is, unlike Caleb's case where he had like 5-man pressure, in this case, yes, it's a quick check down here. It can be a quick check down there. But I'll say this, the cornerback's kind of coming into that side, so maybe also there. But in this case, he's actually looking at the right guy. This
Michael
here
Pittman?
is a good dot pass. That's a clear good dot pass.
Well, here's the thing, though. This is the other thing I'd say. Even if you're looking at Michael Pittman here, number one, Michael Pittman drifts away. So that would have been on Michael Pittman if that throw didn't basically happen, right? But let's look at this again, right? Number one, if you're looking at number one here, and then you're looking at Michael Pittman, that's your second read, all right? You also got to be aware around the pressure round. Like I said, a quarterback has to multitask at once, right? Once you see that break, you got to throw it at him right away, right? The minute he looks, his timing is a little late. And as you can see, he just stays in the pocket. If you're a quarterback under that situation, back up. Just take a little time, back up, kind of settle down, keep your feet in, and just throw that rocket. And Anthony Richardson's got a rocket. He's got velocity. That ball will get quick to Michael Pittman. But if you're not there, if you feel like you're getting pressured, at the end of the day, Jonathan Taylor still has his back towards the running back. The worst thing that can happen is Jonathan Taylor gets tackled maybe 1 yard in front of the line of scrimmage,
Yeah.
right? That's the worst thing. Or Anthony Richardson's turns an incomplete pass, which on a 2nd down and 10 is not the end of the world, right? But the worst thing you can do under that point is stop in the pocket, let the pressure to come in your face, get, gets an arm on your back, and then watch
Mm.
as Anthony Richardson just continues to just lag in, you know, his ability to make that decision, right? Let's look
No,
at it.
honestly, at that point in time, I'm just saying, run out of the pocket.
Run out of the pocket. You
You don't
might run out
have
of the
to make
pocket,
every throw.
or if you feel like you're going down, right? A lot of quarterbacks, a guy like Brady, if they're statue or very limited, just throw it away. And
Yeah.
Richardson, like I said, he's got a strong arm. You're probably going to get that ball to the line of scrimmage at the very least, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to those types of plays. But if you wait a little bit longer, that quarterback is going to get that ball or that arm around onto your shoulder. At that point, you're going to have
Mm.
to throw off your offensive line. And that's always the worst thing you want to do as a quarterback. The worst thing, right? And in this case, it just backfired completely for Anthony Richardson. He tried to
Yeah.
throw off of Ryan Kelly. The ball ended up going straight to a Bears defender, and it was a turnover, right? The difference between CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson in these specific circumstances is timing and quickness of read, right? In the case of CJ
Mm.
Stroud, a lot of the time he's looking at a read, getting stuck to that read, and just overthinking, right?
Yeah.
Again, back up a little bit, take your time, find the receiver, just get that ball. With Anthony Richardson, however, that seems to be a very notable trend, right? He very much either seems to miss his read, miss his throw completely, or just kind of hesitate for a split second. CJ Stroud, the problem is not hesitation. The problem is just if he makes the wrong decision, he makes the wrong decision,
Yeah.
right? That's the difference that can kind of depend on how well you read the field, how quickly you can read the field, and that makes the decision when it comes. And that's the difference between elite quarterback and potentially good quarterback, which I think
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson has the potential.
I
Obviously,
think so
there's
too.
problems otherwise with him talking about the whole concern of him getting benched and injured and whatnot. But he, when it comes to that, I think he can improve if, you know, those injuries go away. He conditions himself. I honestly don't know what the hell to make of the whole situation with him taking himself out of the game.
That's
Um,
unacceptable.
that is unacceptable. And you're gonna if that keeps happening, you're gonna lose. I mean, he's already lost the respect of a lot of players just by doing that, right? Obviously, there was a talk with Shane Steichen. Obviously, that comes down to accountability with the Colts, and you can make an argument that that had to do with injuries. But if that was the case, the Colts would not have benched him. The Colts would not have basically called him out publicly,
Yeah.
which they did. Colts players called him out publicly. Clearly, it goes to show you that there's some sort of lack of discipline with Anthony Richardson, kind of a lack of preparation. And that's to me is the biggest problem. I
Yeah.
hopefully don't want to compare him to Jamarcus Russell, but there are shades of that. You don't want to see that in a young quarterback. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to stop share for a sec so I can be able to switch tabs for the final one. And this shouldn't really take that long because I think this one play really sums up Bryce Young and what the hell has happened to him, right? Bryce Young has played better over time. Bryce Young has shown glimpses of what he can do. But really, when it comes to Bryce Young, the problems are with this pattern with the Panthers. Nothing is going his way, and he's pretty much just shell shocked. That's what it comes down to. And
Yeah.
as I share my screen again, I will show this play to basically, this really sums it up when it comes to Bryce Young's experience with the Carolina Panthers. If I can find it. No, this is Justin Herbert.
Well, I mean, you're looking at, the number one ranked defense in the NFL. What do you
Yeah,
expect?
yeah.
Come on.
Well, this is the problem. So we start off with the Panthers, right? Very standard blitz for Jesse Minter defense, right? This is one of those plays that the quarterback should recognize easily. And Bryce Young does enough time to basically get out of the pocket. Now, the problem here is number one, it doesn't show on the camera, but the receivers are just not open, right?
Yeah.
That's a big problem. Now, a quarterback could very much kind of wait a couple seconds. Now, again, pass rushers quick on him, try to find Chuba Hubbard. Probably not a good decision. Hubbard's right here calling for the ball. At that
Yeah.
point, you got to be at least in the commitment to be able to throw, right? He's looking downfield. Now, if you don't feel confident with that, it's 3rd and 5, right? You're going to get hit. Just throw it away, right? It's the first quarter, 6 minutes, 15, live to die another down, right?
Yeah.
You'll get criticized for that, obviously, but that's better than what Bryce Young ends up doing. Bryce Young basically is waiting, 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 and then just decides not to throw it, not to take the big hit as he throws. So he just basically lies down and dies and takes a sack. That is the worst thing you could have done under that circumstance because you lose your team field territory. Or, force the ball down. That's the other alternative, which in some
Oh
cases,
yeah.
Bryce Young, he's done. But in the cases of Bryce Young, a lot of the throws that you see out of Bryce Young, a turnover, I don't think we'll have time to show this, but a lot of them are just bad reads. When
Yeah.
you have a bad read or just a bad overthrow or something like that, that's when you get into this kind of territory where you're just looked at as an unsolvable type quarterback. And I don't think Bryce Young is that, but those are the types of problems you saw with a guy like Josh Rosen. You saw with a guy
Mm,
like Zach Wilson, and those were the things that ended up eventually getting them not another chance, unlike a Sam Darnold, unlike a Baker Mayfield, where okay, they might be shell shocked, but at least they're showing some sense of, okay, let me throw the ball. Let me make a decision rather than just laying down to die, right?
mm,
That's what I want to see more out of Bryce Young. But overall, when it comes to these quarterbacks, there are different, kind of trajectories, really. And from the looks of it, again, when it comes to any young quarterback, most of these young quarterbacks, especially in this day and age, we have more talent at the quarterback position than any time in the history of the NFL, right? We uh the big thing when it comes to a quarterback in the NFL, young quarterback, is technicality, right? We want to be able to see how you read the field, how you find those little details, like Akilesh mentioned. And when it comes to that, certain quarterbacks get certain systems that help them, certain quarterbacks don't. But you want to be able to have at least enough decision making, as we've shown with some of these quarterbacks, so that you can at least get your team to move down the field. I feel
yeah.
personally like I've seen that with Caleb Williams a little bit more than a Bryce Young, right? But again, like Akilesh mentioned, there are several things that Bryce Young or Caleb Williams needs to improve on when it comes
Yeah.
to late timing, being able to read the ball quick enough. Those are things that you need to see.
But see, this is what I will say, and we'll end the episode with this here. Um, we're not trying to say here. I think Yash agrees with me in this. We're not trying to say this is the end all for these quarterbacks. What we're saying is, look, this is the situation. Now, what are they going to do to improve on it is what we're
Exactly.
waiting for. Okay. CJ Stroud, he started off so high that there's just those little tiny steps to get. Caleb Williams' case, look, there's some positives. Jacksonville game, there were a lot of positives, there were a lot of negatives. Arizona game was a game of negatives. So was against New England. New England was an embarrassment. I'm a
Mhm.
Patriots fan, and I can say I was shocked at what happened. Because, I mean, look, Gerard Mayo is he's good, but I mean, I think we're getting he'll get better as a head coach and the players that we get. Christian Gonzalez is playing like a top five cornerback in the league right now. But with all that being said, it's just that the one thing that I feel in regards to Caleb Williams, Bryce Young for that same matter is they just need a little bit more time. We have to play that waiting game with them. I hope the Bears fire Matt Eberflus. If they hire Ben Johnson, then we are for a decade of prayers that Ben Johnson doesn't do well with the Bears. Because if he's there, at least two Super Bowls are coming. So it's a bold claim, yes, but I'm not afraid to make it because this guy has transformed the league. So that's where we'll end with the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed a bit of the film session. I know I think we said we will get to a game later on, but I think we'll add that for the next podcast. So
100%.
that'll be all for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as we did, and well, we'll see you soon.
Peace.